There's the Poulsbo Inn and Suites. I spent the night there. And now I am in Poulsbo in Kitsap County, Washington. It is a Saturday morning. It is cold and gray. It is not currently rainy, but it will probably rain at some point today. And I'm going to see a little bit of Poulsbo before I head south and eventually back to Seattle. So it's been a while since I've been to Poulsbo, if I've ever been exactly here. So I actually don't know how to get to downtown, but this looks like a major road. So I'm going to follow it, and will I have a sidewalk? Does not. Oh yeah, okay. I have a sidewalk, so I'm just going to keep walking down this road. There is a farmer's market there. Makes sense, it's a Saturday. And it looks kind of sparsely attended. Actually, I guess it said today 10 to 2. It's 10 o'clock right now, so it's sparsely attended for that reason. Also, it is cold and it's October, so it might be the end of farmer's market season. And we're proceeding down this road, which I looked at my Google Maps, and this does lead to downtown Poulsbo, such as it is. So we'll find out what that means. One thing that is already apparent, at least to me, and in contrast to Edmonds, if you look at this housing stock, it's all pretty old. I mean, it's all relatively old, and it seems to focus on single-family detached homes. So I don't know if like the wave of, you know, mixed density, mixed use, retail and residential has come across the Puget Sound to Kitsap County yet, at least not in Poulsbo. Maybe it has in Bainbridge or Bremerton, but here we still have kind of quaint vibes. We have quaint vibes cut by lots of stroads, but that's another story entirely. But I'll see more about that because I think I'm getting close to downtown here. You can also see we have a bunch of boats. Poulsbo is a, I won't say ocean town, a water town. And that's a more complicated issue because right there we see Liberty Bay, which is salt water and which is connected to the Pacific, but you might not think of that as the majesty of the largest ocean on Earth. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a while. Important point to mention about Poulsbo, and so I can show this instead of saying this. This was a city or a town, an area, like many in the Pacific Northwest and in the Seattle region, founded by, in its European settlement, immigrants from Scandinavia. So right there we see some really big Norwegian flags. That's also why we say things like culinary Viking. There's some cultural pride there. I wonder if they have mead at the wine tasting place. So you can see we have a downtown shopping and dining district. Looks a lot like you know, where we were yesterday in Kingston, with the exception that it's bigger and it might actually be more intrinsic to the community, and that this might actually be where kids and also not kids from the city come and hang around instead of just being purely touristic. But I don't know, does look pretty touristic. I've never actually been to this part of Poulsbo. I've never been to downtown Poulsbo, and now I'm seeing it for the first time. This is apparently the Austin/Kveldstad Pavilion. So Kveldstad, more Nordicness. And this is Liberty Bay. So this is, I'm facing west right now, but Puget Sound is the east of the Kitsap Peninsula. So what's going on here is that this is an inlet that sticks up around the lobe. So to go to the Puget Sound, I would sail south that way, turn at Bainbridge Island, take a left at Bainbridge Island, go through a short channel, and then take a left to go north into the Puget Sound proper. And to get to the Pacific Ocean, I would then go north and go take another left and go west out through the Straits of Juan de Fuca. So this is the Pacific Ocean. To get to open Pacific, you would have to take 3 left turns or port turns if you prefer, and then it would be about 300 miles away. So this is the Pacific Ocean, but it is also not the Pacific Ocean. You can see that the inlet is pretty thin here, and I think it ends right up there. You can see the other shore. So very interesting and fractal landscape, and it's kind of hard for an outsider like me to remember how do all these cities relate to each other. And there's a familiar friend from Montana down to Costa Rica. That's a great blue heron, and I don't usually see them this close up. And he's at least a little bit annoyed at me maybe, so I'm not going to bother him too much. But I think that being right here in a park, they probably become accustomed to humans. So we have this boardwalk over the water, and let's see how far this goes. So this is certainly a nice little relaxing walk. And one of the things I mentioned in Edmonds was that there wasn't actually that substantial of access to nature. And here, looks like we have at least some access. You can see here, the water is almost up to the vegetation line, which makes me think that right now this is a, if not exceptionally high tide, at least some type of high tide. And I should probably look and see at where we are in the phases of the moon. I might do that right after I turn around this corner. So the path has left the boardwalk, and that's kind of parallel to what we saw in Bellingham. That path went on a boardwalk and then became a forest path. And it does continue a little bit longer. So I was going to say I was going to take it as far as it would go, but for all I know, this loops around and goes over there. And I can't actually walk miles on it, but I'm going to still walk a little bit further. Well, that answers the question of how far this trail goes. Unless there's another path, but I think I am going to head back into town. And, you know, I walked a half a mile here, so not an epic trek, but was a nice little way to experience the forest. And I just looked it up. Apparently the phase of the moon is waxing crescent, 15%. So it's not actually a new moon, but it is close. But that means if you look at this on a king tide, this would get even higher. There are alder trees here. It's been a while since I've been in a place with a lot of alder trees. I appreciate being around them again. So I climbed back up from there. I'm walking back into town. A little bit of facts and figures. Poulsbo has a population of around 12,000 people in the city limits. It is a city. And Kitsap County, of course, has 250,000 people. So in terms of the size and kind of maybe other things, it's a little bit comparable to Silverton. Now the difference there is that Poulsbo is much closer to Seattle, which is a major metropolitan area, but then the difference in that is that it is separated from it by water. You have to take a ferry to go there or drive back through Tacoma. So kind of hard to find a comparison for what this city is like. So like I ask in a lot of towns like this, is this a commuter suburb? Is this a small town? Is this a tourist town? Is this a retirement town? Could probably put it in any one of those categories. Certainly more touristic than most towns of 10,000 people across the country, but not as much as others. I mean, this isn't like a Hood River or something. So, interesting little town. And also I'm gonna have to correct myself on something. So earlier I said the housing stock mostly looks to be single-family homes. Here we do have some of those mixed use, dense housing walkable distance to things. So it looks like that has come to Poulsbo, but not to the extent that it's come to Edmonds or probably other places on the east side of the Puget Sound. So there's the post office, and here's some more corrections. The difference here is it doesn't look like this is mixed use. This isn't retail. This isn't like 1 and 4 or even 1 and 2. At least not in all of these places. Those look like just standard row houses or even new houses close together. But they are developing some housing density here in Poulsbo, it appears. So there's also a theater, in this case theater with an RE, not a movie theater. So the question I always have when I see things like that is, how does having amenities like that and, you know, a nice little shopping and dining district and stuff, how does it actually affect living in this town? And that's probably different for different people, whether you're retired with money, retired with little money, or whether you're employed remotely. Probably living in Poulsbo looks different for different people. That's my trite but true answer. You can see it's a rainy day, but the streets, even before 11 a.m. on a rainy day, there are people out and shopping. So looks like this is a popular place. And I don't know where these people come from. These are locals, semi-locals. People are flying here from Paris and Auckland, but there are people here coming from far away. So I'm walking back from downtown. Don't remember this hill being so steep when I was walking down it. So this is very hilly terrain. All of this entire peninsula is very hilly terrain. Not super high, but lots of up and down. So walking around has been, you know, giving me a workout. A little to explain about why I took the route I did. Originally, I just wanted to touch the ocean. My original plan just to take an Amtrak to Edmonds and then head back. And I thought, well, as long as I'm going to that effort, let's spend the night. And things are a little bit cheaper on the west side. And Seattle is saturated, you know, and that's kind of like I always do. I always visit places that are a little bit out of focus. And you can probably find a lot on the internet about Seattle. The west side of Puget Sound, not so much. So I decided to swing through. I've been to Kingston and Poulsbo, and in a while I will be going to my next stop. Once again, I'm being proved wrong about my initial thing. Although, I mean, it was well-founded, because if you look around, there still is a lot of single-family homes, but there is new housing in Poulsbo. Not just any housing, these are Nordic cottages for the Viking city. So I visited the library. They were very friendly and they gave me a map, which unfortunately I have a bus to catch in 30 minutes, so I can't go back downtown and follow the map. And I'm back on kind of the highway side of Poulsbo, and actually make a little summation speech when I get up there. Himalayan blackberries. Haven't been around Himalayan blackberries for a while. I didn't even notice before I came over here, but yeah, you don't find Himalayan blackberries in Spokane, just like you don't notice the alders. We have a creek flowing down there. Okay, so almost on the highway. So this is a great place to demonstrate, because we have a 5 or 6 lane highway and we have this gigantic intersection. So one thing about construction of high density housing, including like 2 on 1, 2 above 1, 5 above 1 type things, is it does change the character of a town, especially a town like this that does have a lot of nice, you know, pre-World War II single family housing. And I do actually understand the arguments about people not wanting to ultra-densify their towns and stuff. Where that argument fails is that the traditional character of these towns was destroyed before I was born by this highway. And there are reasons for highways like this, blah, blah, blah. But, you know, this being a small town where people were chatting with their neighbors and working at the local business, that hasn't existed since before I was born. and I'm old now. And this does make it kind of difficult. You can cross the light, but this really cuts the town in two. So this area, which is full of places that look like a lot of nice little towns, has also kind of been very much changed by the amount of highways that went in, again, 50 years ago. So the change that is happening now is a lot more attractive and a lot more necessary to build housing than to build another gigantic intersection and more big box stores. There we go. I just had an opinion about a lot of things. So here's my bus stop. My bus comes in 10 minutes. Because it only comes once an hour on Saturdays, I wanted to get here early rather than late. And I'm going south to Bainbridge Island. So I had a nice little walk around Poulsbo, showed some sights, and like the case a lot of times, what it's actually to live here, I don't know. And again, like I said, a lot of times, same problems. Nice little tourist town, nice downtown, but once you've enjoyed the water and enjoyed the wine again, you are in a city where you're really car dependent, and where there's, you know, a lot of highways, stuff like that. So like a lot of nice little towns, is it a nice little town or is it a Strode exurb? I don't know, but I did enjoy my time in Poulsbo, and Kitsap Peninsula has been interesting, and there will be a little bit more of it that we'll see soon.